You haven't lived until you've seen a 70-year-old man try to explain to a full HOA board why his wife's porcelain owl collection is, and I quote, a non-negotiable historical installation. But that was nothing compared to the great garage sale rebellion of last fall. That was the day our entire cul-de-sac became a reality TV show, and none of us could look away. It all started with Sylvia. Sylvia ran the Whispering Oaks HOA with the iron will of a dictator and the aesthetic sense of a hotel room designer. Beige was her favorite color. Silence was her favorite sound. Her greatest enemy was what she called visual clutter. And there was no greater sin, no more vile incarnation of visual clutter than a homemade garage sale sign. "They are eyesores," she declared at the annual meeting, her voice slicing through the stuffy community room. "Tacky, neon posterboard eyesores stapled to our perfectly manicured telephone poles. They attract riffraff. They cause traffic. They lower property values. Henceforth, all garage sales are banned." A groan went through the room. Garage sales were a neighborhood tradition, but Sylvia had the bylaws, she had the gavel, and she had a terrifyingly detailed spreadsheet on the correlation between yard sales and perceived neighborhood decline. The motion passed. We were furious, but cowed. Everyone, that is, except for old Ray and Dottie Miller. The Millers weren't rebels. They were the sweetest people you'd ever meet. But they were also preparing to move to a smaller place to be near their grandkids, and they needed to have a sale. The ban was a financial disaster for them. "It's not right, Mike," Ray told me over the fence. His shoulders slumped. "We've followed every one of her fool rules for 20 years. We've paid her fines for a wilting petunia, and now when we need a little help, she slams the door." The morning of the Saturday the Millers had originally planned for their sale, I stepped out to get the paper and stopped dead. It wasn't a garage sale. It was a performance. There, on the Millers' driveway, sat Dottie in a rocking chair. Next to her was a small, tasteful end table. On the table was a single, beautiful ceramic vase with a price tag that read $5, and that was it. Ray was sitting in a lawn chair beside her, reading the paper. Sylvia's front door flew open. She marched across the street, her robe flapping, her face a thundercloud. "Raymond! Dottie! What is the meaning of this? This is a clear violation of the garage sale ban." Ray peered over his newspaper, all innocence. "Morning, Sylvia. What sale? We're just sitting out here enjoying the morning air. Dottie's just decided she doesn't care for that vase anymore. If someone were to stop by and offer her $5 for it, well, that's just a friendly transaction between neighbors, isn't it? Not a sale. Certainly not in a garage." Sylvia's mouth opened and closed like a fish. She had no bylaw for this. That's when the magic happened. The Johnsons' garage door across the street rumbled open. Mr. Johnson dragged out a single power tool, a radial arm saw, and placed it on his driveway. He gave Ray a thumbs up. Then, from down the street, Mrs. Gable walked out and laid a neatly folded stack of baby clothes on a small stool at the end of her walkway. She put a sign on it that said, "Free to a good home, donations accepted." It was a virus, a beautiful, chaotic, rebellious virus. One by one, on every single lawn on the block, something appeared. A bicycle, a stack of old records, a lamp. There were no signs, no posters, no prices, just neighbors sitting on their porches or in their driveways, sipping coffee, waiting. People started driving through. They'd slow down, confused at first, then delighted. They'd stop, get out, and ask, "Is this for sale?" And a neighbor would shrug and say, "Well, I suppose it could be." Sylvia was having a meltdown in the street. She was spinning in circles, her phone to her ear, probably trying to call every member of the board. But they were all there, on their own driveways, participating. The rulebook had no chapter for this. You can't fine an entire street for sitting on their own property. The cul-de-sac was packed. Cars lined the streets. Kids were selling lemonade from a stand they called a thirst aid station. It was a block party. It was a festival. It was the most glorious, peaceful, and effective act of civil disobedience I have ever witnessed. Sylvia stood on the sidewalk, utterly defeated, surrounded by the joyful chaos she had tried so hard to prevent. She finally just went inside and closed her blinds. The non-garage sale became legend. The ban was repealed at the very next meeting, out of sheer terror of what we'd come up with next. The moral of the story? You can ban the signs, but you can't ban the spirit. And sometimes, the quietest rebellion is just sitting in a lawn chair and waiting for everyone else to join you.